Hello and welcome to Movie Film Studios, the podcast that takes you inside the mind of two film studio executives as we unravel and then re-ravel the best that Hollywood has to offer. I'm Isaac.
And I'm AJ, and this week our kooky and spooky family let the force flow throughout as they chase down an evil lion who tossed their nephew out of the pride. But before we get into something new, it's time for something old as we check in on our last feature in Box Office Report. Last episode, we released the prequel to the Blade Runner series called Nexus 3, starring Dave Bautista, and Dave Bautista. we mispronounced his name multiple times. I still don't know how to pronounce his name. How did we go?
We did well. We did very, very well.
Okay.
And I think that's from learning one of the main lessons from the original Blade Runner film.
Yep.
Obviously, the original Blade Runner film, it's widely known, didn't do very well at the box office.
No.
It was kind of like shunned, and not a lot of people went and watched it. And it wasn't really until it built this sort of cult following through the director's cut that it actually sort of became successful in one of the sort of iconic sci-fi films. So we just went straight to the director's cut. Like the cinematic release was the director's cut.
Great.
There is actually no original cut.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of feel like that's one of the main reasons for that sort of box office success.
Interesting. I mean, that's generally how films work, right? So you're saying that the film did well, like, box office wise, right? So
yes.
The general consensus was that it was good. So you're not clued into the forums like I am.
All right, I try to avoid it. It'll ruin my day if I log into.
Yeah, well, I'm about to ruin your day. So I mean, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because financially, it's all in the bank.
No.
It's all good there. But we have annoyed a group of people we probably haven't annoyed before, and that is the super fans, because we really haven't made a film as part of an existing license before, I guess, that has had a very intense fan base. And you know
those Blue's Clues fans weren't as that intense.
They're fine. So like when you take liberties with the canon and the film and the stories and stuff in Blue's Clues, it doesn't matter. Like the fans don't really care. But for Blade Runner, they do. And we messed up. We messed up the canon. We retconned a bunch of things from Blade Runner and the sequel, which Dave Bautista was in. We somehow forgot that Dave Bautista has been in a Blade Runner film before.
Blade Runner 2049.
Exactly. Yeah. And our film, which is meant to be a prequel of those two, absolutely ruined the continuity for both of those films as well. So the fans
who's counting?
The fans are
the fans are counting. Right, sure.
Really irritated at us. But I mean, as you say, it doesn't matter. Because, the money's in the bank, and it's probably just as well, because I think Google's going to sue us for using the Nexus term, which I think is what they call their phones as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Anyway, it's all good. We'll keep
Surely Google doesn't have any, lawyers, mighty lawyers behind them. We'll be fine.
No, yeah, right. All right, on to the films for this week's episode. And the first film we have for you today is, well, you know what it's going to be, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, directed by J.J. Abrams and starring Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, and John Boyega.
We've passed on all we know. 1,000 generations live in you now. But this is your fight.
We're back into the Star Wars world. We're back to conclude the trilogy that started with The Force Awakens, directed by J.J. Abrams, and then was ruined by Rian Johnson in The Last Jedi, and is maybe going to get slightly fixed in this film.
I think too much of this trailer looks like it's trying to fix the issues that... Yeah. I think Rian Johnson really just sort of hacked away at everything that J.J. Abrams had set up.
Yep.
In a really, I personally feel was a really horrible film.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And then it looks like J.J. Abrams is trying to correct shit, but maybe overcorrecting. To be fair, though, the trailer doesn't give much away. It's a series of shots of spaceships flying, beloved characters returning from previous films, emotional hugs between existing characters standing on the edge of the cliff and looking at an interesting alien planet of crashed Death Star. Like, it's the same sort of stuff we get for all of these sort of initial teaser trailers. It doesn't tell you anything about the characters, doesn't tell you anything about the story. It's just visually...
But there's enough stuff in there to sort of satisfy the hardcore Star Wars fans. And this trailer premiered at the Star Wars Celebration event, which happens every year somewhere in America, which is a big Star Wars festival. So there's a couple of shots in the film.
Surely, aren't we like 20 days too early for May the 5th?
We are,
May
but
the
like
4th,
that's a separate thing. Yeah,
right.
so
sure.
I mean,
okay.
Anyway, so there's a shot of a character holding a medallion, which is the same medallion that Han Solo was awarded at the end of the first Star Wars film. There's the Emperor from...
we only hear his laugh. You hear his laugh,
but it's his laugh.
Yeah.
And it's noted in the cast that he is actually a cast member. I don't know if it's just voice or otherwise, but apparently we're getting the Emperor back in this film because
we're getting at least
reasons.
To balance out how bad that is. At least we get Billy D. Williams back.
Yeah,
that's
Billy
quite
D.
nice.
Williams is back as Lando Calrissian, and he's doing his thing on the Millennium Falcon. We have a new droid because, of course, we have a new droid.
Yeah,
it's
lots
Disney.
of merchandise tie-in options.
New
there.
spaceships, new this, new that. And
like pretty much every spaceship I see there, like. In my mind, I already see the Lego set sitting in the toy store.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's exactly like the TIE Interceptor, except there's some like red around.
It's got
the
red
edges,
around it. Yeah, it's sharper as well.
Yeah, it's a new set that you have to buy.
Exactly. Look, these films make a heap of money. You're either on the side of like it's mindless entertainment, it's fun, or it's just not the same. It's not the Star Wars you remember.
I came to a realization recently that like I loved the original trilogy growing up.
Yeah.
And then I look at this trilogy now, I'm like, but it's just a whole bunch of stupid names and silly words for planets. I'm like, well, that's what the original trilogy was, but I was invested in that. And now I can see the people who weren't invested in the original trilogy looking at me going, yeah, but it's just a bunch of silly words and stupid nouns and weird planets. And I'm like, I kind of get more now what it's like to be on the outside of Star Wars because I haven't enjoyed it for quite a long while.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I will always love the original trilogy and as being standalone films, but the rest of it I just don't care about anymore.
Yeah, there's too much self-editing. Like to really enjoy it, I have to kind of ignore big chunks of it.
Yeah,
which kind of. I mean, I'm quite happy to do if Indiana Jones. Just ignore the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull exists because that's an entire film. But when you go, actually, I don't really like this part of this film. I'll try and forget that happened. Let's ignore that. Apparently, the Rebels TV series is part of the canon.
Canonical.
And
then the latest video game is also canonical as well, and it'll give you this tiny little piece of the puzzle that you haven't picked up from the films, and it's too much.
It is.
It's too dense, and I'm kind of done with it. And Disney apparently is as well because they're taking a hiatus from Star Wars after this film, and I assume that they're going to go resurrect the corpse of Indiana Jones as well.
So now they're only going to release 12 films?
12 films this year, yeah. Like anyway, they're not strapped for cash, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Next film for this week's episode is The Addams Family, directed by Conrad Vernon and Greg Tiernan, and starring Oscar Isaac, Charlize Theron, and Chloe Grace Moretz.
This is an average American family. And so is this. And so are these. Every family is different. But some families are more different than others.
Get out! It's hideous.
It's horrible.
It's home.
Is that really as tight as you can make it? Well...
Hello.
Wednesday, what do you have there?
I'm not sure.
Strange. There's usually a murderous clown attached to the other end of these.
My only real exposure to the Addams Family is the other 90s films.
Yeah, directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, who did the original Men in Black films.
Oh, right. I mean, I just know it as Christina Ricci and
Yes.
Great Scott! Whatever his
Christopher
name.
Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd, there you go.
Angelica Houston and...
the guy from Street Fighter.
That guy from Street Fighter, yeah.
They were good films. So there's the first
They're really
two were...
fun films,
And as kids of the 90s, they were right up our alley. It was a bit quirky. It was a bit kooky. A bit spooky.
Well, yeah.
All those creepy, kooky, spooky, all those words from the theme song.
So the Addams Family started as a comic strip in the New Yorker in the 1930s, I believe, created by a guy called Charles Addams. And he wrote it as a kind of a counterpoint to the established American family culture at the time, which was very wholesome. And the Addams Family was meant to be counterculture, basically like the Simpsons.
The Simpsons did exactly that same thing, yeah.
And the films that they did in the 90s sort of followed on that as well. They were very weird and quirky.
But they were, I think the films were based more off the 60s TV
Probably
series.
based off the TV series as well, yeah. So this particular film is animated and it harks back to the original graphic style of those comics from the 1930s. And it's much more slapsticky, in the same vein as the Hotel Transylvania films.
I was about to say, this reminded me a lot of the Hotel Transylvania. And obviously Hotel Transylvania, I think, is taking its cue from the Addams Family.
Yeah.
But... I don't know. I'm not interested in watching Hotel Transylvania. This also seems to be aimed at a much younger audience than the films that I got to see. Yeah.
It's a reboot. I mean, there's only so many times they can repeat the Addams Family films on TV, and I swear it's every 6 weeks at this point.
Yeah.
So they need to, kick that license along again, and spooky, scary, done in a fun, child-friendly, family-friendly manner seems to be the way to go.
It very much feels like one that in 5 years' time, when we're still doing the podcast, we will be watching the trailer for the Addams Family 5.
Probably, yeah.
This is the Despicable Me style of and there will be
There'll
a spin-off series.
The Thing spin-off.
Yeah, where the hand and his kooky hand sidekicks are just off doing their
and despite the fact
things.
that hand has no voice, it'll still be voice cast by some, well-known actor or actress.
How many people do they get to do the voice of BB-8 or something like that?
Oh, yeah, Bill Hader does the voice of BB-8.
But I think it's Bill Hader and someone else.
It's Bill Hader, an app, and someone else.
And it's why do you need three people to voice a robot that doesn't even speak?
No.
Sure.
Ben Burt just recorded a bunch of plinky plonky sounds back in the 70s for R2-D2, and that seemed to work fine. But anyway, go and see this film later this year.
Or if you don't have kids, don't go and watch it.
Don't go watch it. Final film for this week's episode is The Lion King, directed by Jon Favreau and starring Donald Glover, Seth Rogen, and Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Life's not fair, is it, my little friend? While some are born to feast, others spend their lives in the dark. Begging for scraps.
Everything you see exists together in a delicate balance. While others search for what they can take, a true king searches for what he can give.
And we're back in Disney remake territory.
Yeah, another long line in the chain of... This time not live action, it's still animated, but it's just reanimated.
Man, but not even animated in a way that's meant to be... It's meant to look photorealistic. Yeah. And because of that, all the lines in it look real, all the
you say they look really, really desaturated.
Yeah, I know. It's a weird, bizarre, You know what it's like? You know those films where they've got a canine or a cat? You know the dogs and cats films? Where they've shot live action dogs and cats and then they've CG manipulated their mouths so that they're making mouth shapes so they can talk.
Yeah.
This is what that film looks like. It looks like a very high budget version of Cats and Dogs. Because everyone's sort of rendered in a photorealistic style, but they still have to move their mouths in a way that suggests that they're talking, and it looks creepy.
There still has to be a look of surprise on Simba's face as the wildebeest come charging at him.
Yep.
Timon and Pumbaa, photorealistic meerkat and warthog are singing "The Lion Sleeps Tonight" as they walk through the jungle.
Not even walking, like it's a prance.
It feels weird. And the other thing is, one of the things they did with the teaser trailer here was did a recut of the film side by side, and you can see it's shot for shot. This film is also shot for shot.
Yeah.
There's a weird montage I always found very, very strange in the original film where they're walking across a log bridge, singing Hakuna Matata.
Yeah.
And like there's this
Simba grows up.
Yeah, Simba grows up. And they
crossfade sort of thing. Yeah.
They did exactly the same thing. It's the same weird shot. It's the same side on.
Yeah.
As he's getting older, the final shot, they're silhouetted by moonlight.
Yeah.
I'm like, are they doing what they did for Psycho, whatever? Gus Van Sant's shot for shot remake for no apparent reason.
With what's his name?
Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates. Yeah, the completely pointless exercise in remaking a film shot by shot. And I mean, no one's going to remember the Gus Van Sant version, and everyone's going to remember the Alfred Hitchcock version.
Exactly.
That's the same thing for this. No one is going to, in a couple of years' time, you know what people will want to see again and again? The original animated version.
Well, this is the thing. When they re-released this in 3D, where I went and watched it again because I wanted to watch it again in the movies.
Yeah.
It literally, if they put the original 2D animated Lion King from 1994 on at the movies, I would be 100 times more likely to go and watch it than I am to go and watch this remake. And again, I don't want to get off topic, but one of the things we both picked up on this film is just the voice casting feels really
so wrong. Yeah.
We've got James L. Jones still doing Mufasa.
Yeah.
But
very older as well.
he does sound a lot older than he did before.
Yeah.
But like Scar starts speaking, and I'm like, I don't feel like you're a villain. I don't get that same sense of malice, that same sense of pure dread that Jeremy Irons brought to the role.
And I can only assume this is part of like Disney's contemporary push to like address the wrongs that people have criticized the previous films for. So Scar is a bit of a pantomime villain. He's got the very crisp British accent voiced by Jeremy Irons. And in this one, they've it's Chiwetel, and he's doing a much more nuanced and very, very restrained.
But everything that I've seen him in, he's just been a nice guy.
Yeah,
it doesn't ring to me like a villain.
Yeah,
and not many of the other characters speak in this. But you look at the voice cast, and you've got Seth Rogen and
John Oliver,
Beyonce, and I don't know what roles they're going to play. Maybe I could maybe see Seth Rogen as being one of the hyenas, possibly. Yeah. But Donald Glover, I assume, is playing Simba.
Seth Rogen is playing Pumbaa, and it's just
really?
It's not right. And Billy Eichner is playing Timon, and it's like it's not Nathan Lane, and
Matthew Broderick.
Look, anyway. This will make money. No one will actually like it. No one will say, gee, I'm really glad they did a 3D computer-generated version of The Lion King, because it was really lacking a lot of pixels back in the day.
Has anyone actually... So it's Cinderella, Pete's Dragon, Beauty and the Beast, Dumbo, Aladdin, The Lion King,
Jungle Book.
The Jungle Book.
Yep.
They've done so many of them. Are any of them actually... good? Like would you sit down with none of those? Would I go, hey, I've got the original Cinderella from 1940 or whenever it came out, and I have the remake with Game of Thrones Richard Madsen or whatever his name is. Which one would I want to show my hypothetical kids if I had them? I would always choose the original.
Be the animated,
I don't know. I just don't know what the point of it is. And as I said, what they used to do with Disney is they have the thing called the Disney Vault, where they take all their films, they lock them up, they'd say you're not allowed to screen these, and then every 15 years they would re-release one of them, and everyone would flock to the cinema, and they'd create this demand by limiting the supply. There's no reason they can't keep doing that. I don't know.
Because Disney needs to Disney transitions to the best way to make money depending on the time of whatever age we're in. Previously, it was like restricting the supply that made them a lot of money. Now it's about oversupplying, and they'll make them a lot of money. So I think
or launching your own digital distribution platform.
Exactly.
Pulling all your Disney property from Netflix and making sure that parents with kids under the age of 5 have to subscribe to Disney's platform because that's the only place that they can watch Frozen over and over and over and over and over again.
Exactly. All right, those are the 3 trailers and our very ranty thoughts on them for this week's episode. But of course, before we can do anything with those, we're going to have to take a little walk over to the green room.
Let's go.
And here we are. Let's have a quick recap of the trailers for this week's episode. We have
the final film in a trilogy of post-sequel.
Yeah, for now. In a long-running space opera epic.
It's tired. It's so tired.
It is, yes. We also have
a reboot of a comic book strip / TV series / film.
In a new animated form.
A new animated style aimed at kids.
Yep. And finally, we have
another in a long line of Disney remakes of existing Disney films.
Yes, indeed. I'm not jealous of the fact that I don't pick this week.
Wet garbage. Like, to be fair, the Addams Family one is the only one in there that, like, has a spark of originality.
Yeah.
And having said that, the intellectual property's already been remade like a dozen times. None of this stuff is new. None of it's original. None of it's different.
Exactly. That animated property, that original property, the Addams Family, even made it to direct-to-video before it got rebooted. Yeah. So it's had a good run in the sun, that's for sure. But anyway, it's your turn this week. What have you got?
I can't choose just one of them.
Okay.
So what we need to do is it's going to be computer animated.
Yeah, of course.
So we're taking that from The Lion King and The Addams Family.
Yep.
It's got to be based on some
pre-existing property.
Well, this is the thing. Like, it's just telling the same stories over and over again. That's apparently what people want. It may frustrate the hell out of me as a film producer to not come up with a new original idea every week. We just come up with gold every single time. But apparently what the people want is just the same garbage over and over again.
What is the most, like discounting religious stories, what is the most commonly told story to children? Is it like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, those kind of very, very well-known nursery tales?
This is where Disney mined a lot of their ideas, like Cinderella and the Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and Frozen. These are all grim fairy tales. Yeah. Like, we've even done our own Shashki Midvet was based on a chess-playing bear. That old Russian folk tale. I think you're onto something. I think we take a folk tale.
Yep.
That has been
done to death.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Or maybe not done to death in the cinematic sense, but as a story, it's one that, as a parent, you wouldn't even buy the storybook for because you can just tell it yourself.
Exactly.
So again, this is like, we're in the Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Little Red Riding Hood. Why is it always about like
three pigs?
Girls? Three little pigs? Yeah, three little pigs actually.
Or even, what about Billygoats Gruff? Gruff. As they're crossing the bridge to get to the Great and they have to fight the troll?
Yep. I can't even, how does that story even
It's go? Just the younger brother goes, don't eat me, my next brother's coming across and he's much bigger. And then the second brother goes, don't eat me, my bigger brother's coming and you get a much bigger meal. And the third brother comes along and he's a big fully grown goat with horns and he just knocks the troll off the bridge.
Yep, okay,
Story told.
All right, so I like that. Let's do this. Let's do that. But I think that we'll do the same thing that Disney does and attempt to correct the problems that the original versions of these stories have. And the problem I see in this story is that each brother successfully throws the other brother under the bus.
Yeah.
So I get the sense that there's a family discord there. They're not on equal footing there. They're actually trying to outplay each other and trying to survive. So I think that there needs to be family turmoil. We clearly need to tell that backstory extensively as to why each brother would then sell the other brother under. I mean, there's no guarantee that the last Billy Goat can defeat the troll under the bridge. You know, it's all left up to chance and, the hope that this brother is played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I think assume.
So. Or Dave Bautista, if we could still get some, like, hey, Dave, come to some ADR for Nexus 3. It's like, didn't this already get a cinematic release? Yes. Well, just did it. Why am I talking as if I'm a goat? It's just ADR, Dave. Do I get paid extra? No, it's all built into your original contract.
In Blade Runner talking about the little unicorn origami figure. It's like that. Like, it's the fever dream of a mad person who maybe or maybe doesn't know about your actual history. It's fine. Just go along with it. All right, so he'll play the big hulking, final Billy Goat Gruff.
Yeah.
But I think, that's the core of the story really is like
a family dynamic.
How did this family break apart? How did they get to the point where they're selling each other or they're throwing each other under the bus?
You're saying the word family a lot.
Yes.
And that just reminds me of the Fast and the Furious.
Yes.
Because Vin Diesel he's just all about family.
Yep.
the whole family crew.
Yep.
Why would you do anything? You'll do anything for my family. So
Yep.
I think elements of Fast and Furious.
Yep.
Is that at all possible?
I think that's fine, but I also think that there's something Wall Street-ish about this as well.
Oh, all right.
So I
okay.
kind of like the idea of like competing family members either vying for the family fortune, or they've got competing properties, or
So are we doing a contemporary setting then, or are we?
Of course we are.
Because I mean, I kind of feel like the original Disney films were always set in the mystical forest with the talking woodland creatures and things like that.
So do we do what DreamWorks does a lot, like for the Shrek films, and say, yeah, it's going to be in a fairy tale locale, but we're going to bring in all this modern,
this weird anachronistic. I don't really like that as well, because like
I know,
you
but
get
but the people like it.
You get your Red Riding Hoods. I think we got to follow the Disney model though. The Disney model is the telling of the original story.
Yep.
And then this is also like theoretically as if we're remaking our own retelling of that original story.
Yeah.
But in a sense, we're trying to stay true to the source material.
Right.
I like the forest dynamic. We can create a little bit of maybe like a family business kind of thing.
Yep.
And, it's such and such and son. And then it's supposed to be in sons. But you have the older, powerful brother. And the middle brother, I think, is always supposed to be a bit more shrewd and conniving.
Yep.
And then the young one's a bit more reckless and impetuous.
Yeah, I like this. I also think they need to have a reason as to why they're going over the bridge, because this was critically lacking in the original story.
No, the original story is the grass was greener on the other side.
Oh, is that it?
As far as I'm concerned, where that actually sort of like saying comes from, they're on one side of the bridge, and they've already used up all of their green grass. They've eaten it all. They want to get to the other side where the green grass is, and there's a roadblock in the way in the form of a bridge troll.
Right.
Now, this is another character that sort of
is very underdeveloped
in
the original story. Yeah, like for instance, are the goats just pests?
Well,
I mean, they've eaten all the grass on one side, and then they want to invade someone else's sovereign territory and eat all the grass there.
There's nothing more topical at the moment than environmental concerns.
That's right, yeah.
And the whole sort of maybe we recast it. Maybe we show it in the light of these goats are actually the ones who are being destructive.
That's right, yeah.
Who are actually ruining their environment, creating a monoculture of grass, which doesn't promote any biodiversity at all.
This is kind of what the original Minions film, not the Minions, Despicable Me. Didn't they recast? He's meant to be some evil arch villain, but they kind of recast him as a kind of lovable.
I think that was
curmudgeon.
He was forced to adopt 3 children.
Yes,
and the 3 children brought out in him. This loving potential. Well, why don't we do the same thing? If we're going to do that, then one of the main characters is Father Goat Gruff. And he has these 3 children who are thrust upon him and maybe potentially show him the error of his ways. And then
wait, they're thrust upon the troll, or
no, on the dad.
On the dad, right?
Possibly.
Okay.
Or are we saying that the troll is Groot? Not Groot, Gru. I'm so confused right now.
I assumed that we can't, we have the character who's traditionally the villain in that story, which is the troll.
Okay, troll.
We switch the perspective on him.
Okay,
because we need to ground him in reality in the same way they did for Beauty and the Beast. They had to sort of justify all these reasons why Gaston was such an asshole, and it was like PTSD or something in that film. It's so weird.
Weird. Okay.
But that seems to be a thing, right? Like the troll needs a motivation for doing what he does, and maybe it's like, I don't know, maybe some goats attacked his family at some point, and he's he's the last one of his family, and he's just bitter. And now he has to sit under the bridge because, a bridge somewhere else in a faraway land was the location of the last stand where his family died, and now as penance for his sins for letting his family die, he has
definitely
to
seeing a goats versus trolls war,
exactly.
a civil war.
That's right. The backstory was there was a civil war between goats and trolls. The evil troll in our story lost his entire family to the goats. But then the war was settled. There was a very a peace kind of came out. A peace treaty came out. Both sides basically agreed to it, and they've lived in not quite harmony, but
but there is a hard border. That's also a very topical thing at the moment with Brexit and the hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Maybe we can pull on some of those
of course we can.
sociological issues there where they're like, well, how do we, now that this treaty's been signed, there is now a hard border between the trolls land and the goats land.
Is it the bridge?
It is. It's actually, the hard border is the river that runs and there's only one crossing point. And for some reason, I don't know. I think why do the trolls have all this infrastructure? Are they the craftsmen? Have they built the bridges? Have they built the irrigation?
Yeah.
And then the goats again. Everything I look at here, the goats are the villains in a really weird way. The original story doesn't really get into the fact that hey, I want what you've got. I'm going to kill you to take it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a good moral. What are you trying to tell us, Grimm?
Yeah, I know. Well, this is the thing. This is the morally ambiguous nature of Grimm's fairy tales, which I think tends to get a bit dulled when Disney takes over.
It gets washed away a little bit.
Yeah.
So we have to gloss over the fact that it's rampant tyrannical bullying at its core, and say, well, otherwise we can't like the troll. It doesn't look pleasant. It's asymmetrical, and we don't like anything that's asymmetrical. And the big symmetrical pretty goats can take whatever they want.
Yeah. All right. So where do we go from here?
I think it's probably why it was never turned into an original film. Like, substantially, there's not a lot to do there. We really have to do a lot of work to fill in the gaps here.
I think we need to leave... So we do what they did for The Hobbit, right? And that is expand...
Spin 10 pages into a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole crux of that story is the last goat coming over the bridge and attacking, whatever, the troll. That we need to save for, Act 3, the sort of climactic part of the film. And so Act 1 needs to be the first troll. Act 2 is the second troll. Act 3, conclusion and demise of the troll. So I don't know how we're going to expand upon the story.
See, everything that I think we could do is like a really clever, we tell the same story 3 times, but from different people's perspectives.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
And then each time reveals different things about the relationship.
Yep.
I'm like, but again, this is not a Disney film.
That's right,
This is like a Christopher Nolan film. It's like non-linear storytelling. We can't do that.
No, we can't. No,
very
absolutely
distinctly
not.
said we are doing a very bland, just retelling of an existing story.
Yep. It must be linear, and it can you can only do flashbacks and flash forwards when it's for comedic purposes only. That is from the Disney Handbook of Making Films.
I think we've banged our heads against the wall, and I think the only solution to this is just to make a 5-minute film.
Oh, really?
Like as a cinematic release, absolutely.
Yep.
But we are doing Disney's very staunch. We're just going to tell the story as it is.
Yep.
And if we tell the story as it is, it's just going to last for 5 minutes. And I think we just have to just go with that and go, hey, you know what? Morally, not the best story in the world. But you know what we do?
Yeah.
If it's just going to be 5 minutes, we release a hand animated film that looks like it was made in the 1950s.
Yep.
And then we release a computer-generated one that looks like it was made in the early 90s.
Yep.
And then we also release the live-action remake of the same film.
Yep.
So it's just back to back to back. So, let's say it's a 5-minute film. We've already just flushed it out to 15 minutes.
Yep.
And we've given people 70 years worth of movie-going experiences all in the one, cinema session.
See, no, you're not thinking like a movie producer, because you're saying that for the cost of one ticket, they can see 3 different films. No. We do the experiment that we were talking about when we were talking about The Lion King, and you were saying that if you were presented with 2019 CGI crapfest, that is The Lion King, or the 1994, 6, whatever version of The Lion King, the animated 2D version, you'd always go to that one. We give the people the option when they get to the Cineplex. Do you want to see the 1950s version of the 3 Billygoats Gruff?
Yeah.
Sure, buy a ticket for that one and you'll see a 5-minute film. Do you want to see the 1995-esque version of the 3 Billygoats Gruff? Sure, go and buy a ticket for that. And then finally, if for some reason you want to see the completely weird-looking photorealistic CGI version of the 3 Billygoats Gruff that we released this year, you may choose to see that as well.
I think the only reason we make that is to drive people into the other cinemas, because no one would go and watch the other ones otherwise. But the fact that there's a bad remake, it's what, it gives me the nostalgia factor. I'm going to go watch the other films.
This is probably a secret board meeting discussion here, but do we actually pretend it came out in the 1950s, that original version? Do we kind of mislead the public?
Ooh. I think we're going to have to pay off the Internet Movie Database to go into their back systems and to adjust some things.
Add this in there, yeah. Well, someone probably did a version of the 3 Billygoats Gruff. I'm sure Looney Tunes probably did it back in the day. Do we just co-opt that? Surely that's
no. I think we still make our own.
We still make our own.
I think we definitely rewrite the history book slightly to...
Yeah, we make sure we have one of those like copyright MMCVX logos on the end of the film.
We just cast people who can't contradict. Oh yeah, Alec Guinness was in this.
Yeah,
don't you remember?
Yeah.
You could go ask him. Oh,
no, that's right. And I mean, Wikipedia articles are really easy to edit if you are logged in. So there's Alec Guinness was definitely in the 3 Billygoats Gruff. He definitely did it before the Bridge Over the River Kwai.
Yeah. Again, he was in. Don't you remember the whole lot of bridge-based films that he was in, all in the same decade?
That's right. Yeah, that's definitely did. It was the Bridge Saga. Yeah, all right, that sounds good. So, I mean, do we even need to make the CGI animated version if no one's going to see it? Or?
Yeah, we make them all. Actually, I think if anything, we don't make the 2019 like CGI like live action remake.
Yep.
We just make the trailer for it.
Yeah, good idea.
And when people rock up and say, hey, I saw the trailer for it, it's giving me the nostalgia to go watch the original one.
Yep.
And it's just like, oh yeah, but we wink wink, we're putting sessions on in Cinema 21.
Yeah.
There's only 20 cinemas in this particular complex. It doesn't exist.
So we're going to have to also pay off like cinema complexes as well. There's a lot of paying off in this one.
I think,
we'll blow through our Blade Runner prequel money.
Well, it's the thing, I think a lot of people say that about a third of a movie's budget goes towards marketing.
Yep.
They don't realize that the other third goes towards bribes and hacking. So,
and the other third?
I mean, making the film itself.
All right, cool. Bribes and hacking.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a big component of films these days.
Yeah, that's right. It's one Disney never wants to talk about it, but it's definitely there. All right. So, I mean, do we need to have a different name? It's just going to be the 3 Billygoats Gruff?
No, they call it the same thing every time.
All right.
It's not like, the Gritty remake, which is just called Gruff.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's just called the 3 Billygoats Gruff.
The Gritty remake was the era of like 2010. It's very specific. It's like around about the 2010 era is when they started doing the singular word, like Grimm. Wasn't Grimm one of them as well? The single word title. But we are done.
Grimm was a TV series, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a film called
The Brothers Grimm with Matt Damon and Heath Ledger?
Yeah. Anyway, that doesn't matter. So yeah, we're about preservation. We're about bringing the people this lovely bit of history in the same way that Disney lovingly packages it up and sells it on their digital distribution platform, which is also where you'll find the 3 Billygoats Gruff.
But you may not find the most recent version because it may or may not ever exist.
Is that story out of like copyright now? Can we also like reprint the books? Because you know how Disney do that for Winnie the Pooh, right? Like I don't know what the licensing is for that, but they can reprint the original A.A. Milne books using their version of Winnie the Pooh, I believe. So I wonder if we can do that as well. We resell the 3 Billygoats Gruff as a book, but it obviously has the look and feel of our animated films.
I mean, there's so many tie-ins. There's coloring books. There's stickers.
Yep.
Kids go mad for stickers.
Yep.
I think we're going to make
sets.
most of our money from the stickers.
Yep.
And the backpacks and the pajamas and
the giveaways at supermarkets and stuff. We need to do the Lego tie-in set as well. Yep. The video game. Surely we can turn a 5-minute film into a video game.
But the thing is, because it's all retrospective, it'll be like a NES video platformer.
Yeah.
It's like, don't you remember the Nintendo version of the 3 Billygoats
We'll sell
Gruff?
3 versions of the game. There'll be the original Nintendo Entertainment System version, the Nintendo 64 version, which has like 10 polygons in it, and then the like PS4, Xbox One, PC like powerhouse that is.
But it's still exactly the same platformer.
Yeah.
It's just better graphics.
Yeah, it's like when they remaster like old video games and they give you the option to switch between the original graphics or the 3D HD remaster. We'll do that as well for ours. Exact same game. And it like just one of those like real poor excuses for, like when they did E.T. for the Atari and it was just like E.T. jumping out of pits. It had nothing to do with the film itself.
The E.T. video game mainly end up in landfill.
It did, yeah. Like, but see, look how much money it made afterwards when people got like hooked on trying to figure out the story and the myth behind it. I mean, I think that's clearly where we need to go. It's,
I didn't realize just how much work there would be in creating every piece of licensed merchandise for the last 70 years, but I think our digital or even our practical workshop team are up to it. So
yeah, I think we're gonna have to skew the budget a little bit because you said like it's a third for movie production, a third for marketing, and then a third for bribing and hacking. I mean, the film's gonna cost us like maybe $1,000 to make. I don't think we're gonna need a little bit more than that for the rest of the film.
All right, I'll rejig the spreadsheet for the Mandela effect is where people remember things that happened that never happened.
Yep.
We want it. Yeah, we want that. We want people to remember having seen the 3 Billygoats Gruff in the film like after it came out of our vault in 1985. I was like, I kind of remember that one actually.
And we also need to do the retrospective documentaries on it as well. So like we'll get some old actors to come back and talk about how they were like an animator on the original version or one of the voice actors or something, and it'd just be like no one you know of.
One of the janitors who found the original cells in the dumpster at the end, and now they've bought them selling them at auction for like $100,000 for one of the original cells.
Yep. And how we found the original reels of the film as well, deep buried in a vault somewhere that we purchased and
had to be painstakingly
frame by frame restoration.
Yep.
And now we've got the new 4K transfer as well for re-release in cinemas. And yeah, it'll be a huge thing. And we just hope that we're not going to get exposed for making up a film for 3 films actually. All right, I think that's a wrap. I think you're right. 3 Billygoats Gruff. Time to clean some house. We are online at moviefilmstudios.net, where you can find all of our previous episodes, our bios, and the database of films that we've made on this podcast. Guess what? We are on social media. We're on a bunch of different platforms, and we're doing better at them now. So we are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. Search either of those platforms for Movie Film Studios. Drop the S if you're on Twitter because they don't allow us to have our full name on there. And you'll find various things. On Facebook, we post clues as to the trailers we've watched in upcoming episodes, which is a fun little game that some people participate in.
Yeah, congratulations this week I'm going to butcher this in Italian, that Guerra Stellari La Salita del Luamere del Cielo, which is Star Wars on the Sky Promenade or something like that, which is Ascension of the Sky Promenade, which is Rise of the Skywalker.
Yep.
The anagram for the Addams Family went into Flashy Maid Mate. And the image of a lion and the image of a king, surprisingly, was to represent the film The Lion King.
Aladdin. Okay.
Congratulations if you got those this week.
Indeed. On Instagram, we post animated snippets of episodes. So if you're looking for a way to get your Movie Film Studios fix without having to listen to an entire podcast, have a listen to those. They're only a minute long, and they're full of good times. The last one we did was about the poor Cesar Romero and his lack of an Academy Award.
I still really can't get over how many people who have portrayed the Joker have won Academy Awards. I think Kate Winslet says that you have to play I can't even remember the kind of roles that you have to go for if you want. This is in extras, so it's obviously a bit of a joke. But I think she missed the point there. If she wanted to win an Oscar sooner, she just needed to sign up to play the Joker. Yeah.
No wonder Robin Williams didn't get that role. He wasn't an Academy Award winner.
Yeah. Did he not win for Good Will Hunting for Best Supporting Actor?
Yeah, but that was after the first Batman film.
Yeah. Well, hang on, did they all win beforehand?
Yeah.
Except for Heath Ledger, who won for playing that role.
Yeah, true. He didn't win for
Brokeback?
Brokeback Mountain? He might have. Anyway, let's go with that. And on Twitter, we do posts when the podcast is out and other little bits and pieces. So there's hashtags in there. And
so if you've ever felt like, hey, I missed the episode out because my podcast didn't update, well, join us on Twitter and you can see that it'll also announce when the podcast's out as well.
If you have 3 goats and you think that they'd like the sound of our voices, then how about you check out our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, and pretty much any other place that you get podcasts.
Also,
from.
if you have a younger, rambunctious brother and an older, burlier brother who may also like podcasts, why not recommend it to friends and family?
Yeah, absolutely. It really, really helps. And I think that's it.
All that remains this week is to thank you once again for listening. I've been Isaac.
And I've been AJ.
Roll credits.